Hello and welcome to Can You Hear Me at the Back, the podcast about all things voice and communication.
Hi, Leon.
Hi, Aundrea.
So, with a sound and a movement, tell me how you feel.
I didn't do a movement.
I mean, I guess the act of what you just did is technically a movement.
And then as I was doing it, I remembered a few episodes ago when you were like, we always do something quite lippy.
Yeah, I was literally just going to say that. We can't change
I think it's because we had lunch. We always eat and then do a podcast.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's good or not, but it is what it is.
True. Aundrea?
Yes.
In a sound and movement, how do you feel? Those of you that aren't watching YouTube, Aundrea sort of cupped her hair and you heard the sound, but as if your hair was crunchy or your brain was fried.
My hair is a little bit crunchy there.
Is it?
I put a little bit of different stuff in it, and look, it's an ongoing struggle, my hair.
Me too. For very different reasons. For those of you who don't get the joke, check out YouTube on my website, leontrayman.com. .co.uk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I get that, so I've got a thing about people touching my hair. It's a very big thing. And
because you said it was crunchy, I desperately wanted to touch it. And
I
was
know.
Like, I'm not going to do this.
But
on the podcast.
it's not actually crunchy today. I can really feel the curls in it, and that sometimes I don't know where that was going.
Thing.
It was.
You can feel the curls.
Yeah, because sometimes it's just frizzy and you just feel frizz, but I can actually feel like the coil.
The
coil of the curl. I got a word for you. My mom the other day was just like, she's like, these people are causing me so much agina. And I was like, Mom, I feel like that's not your word. Have you heard of that word? Agina. Yeah.
No.
I know. I was like, I don't know what word that is, Mom, but I don't think that's a word that, I don't know.
What does it mean?
It's like, I just have a feeling that goes with it. It's just like, pain. It's just, but it's like annoying pain. It's like, like people are getting on your nerves.
Sure.
Yeah.
When you said it, I thought she'd mispronounce angina. Like, these people are giving me a heart condition.
I mean, possibly. Maybe that's where it stems from. Maybe that's what the root of the word is, and then somebody was just like, instead of angina, it's agina now.
I do feel like etymology is not really our thing.
It's true.
And also, etymology is also a bit questionable, and in any case, isn't it?
That's very true. So what are we talking about today?
It's a good question. Good question. Anatomy and physiology, two of my favourite words. Are you doing a little sexy dance?
I am.
She's working her anatomy in a physiological way. Yeah. Because last ep we talked about so down with the lingo.
It did take me a second. I was like, there's an EpiPen? No,
not EpiPen.
I was like, focus, Fudge, focus.
Focus. You're ready to stop focusing. So we talked about what is a voice coach, what do we do, who are we, what's the deal? And we talked a little bit about breaking it down to three subsections. First subsection, anatomy and physiology, the sort of workings of what's going on. The second one, acting and theatre. Sort of acting and theatre? Mainly acting.
It was mainly acting, but it was like
theatre.
the voice in the context of acting.
Yes, voice and acting. What's the podcast about? And then the third one, as per our tagline, voice and communication. So this is the follow-up episode to that ep, interspersing it with lingo. So this one's anatomy and physiology. So, yeah, what's the deal with anatomy, huh?
Oh my gosh, so much anatomy. I'm not gonna lie, anatomy scares me a bit.
Yeah.
When I went into, especially when I went into to MABS, I was kind of like, I was an English major, I was a linguistic major. I purposely did not go into science because I was like,
Do you not want to touch the squishy bits?
I love I liked looking at it. I love the squishy bits. I dissected a frog when I was like in middle school. Yeah, it was really cool. And we did a baby shark, which I think is illegal now.
Baby shark?
Yeah.
Baby No, stop it. Sorry. For everyone listening, really sorry.
But yeah, like,
Yeah.
and so I like looking at it. And we looked at like the heart and how the gills work and all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
But
cool.
but I think there was something really daunting about looking at it in humans. And I don't know. I think I think there's like you know what it is? I think it takes time for that information to really sink in with me. I think I can learn it, and then be like this and this. But it's actually only been since I've been like teaching like full time that I've gone, oh wow, wait. Of course that makes so much sense.
Yeah, that's really useful.
Of course.
Yeah. I think I always really liked biology anyway. I quite like science anyway. Nerd. No, I quite like biology. I've always quite liked biology. In fact, if I hadn't been an before I actually made the sensible decision and decided to go to drama school, such as that's a sensible decision, I had been investigating becoming a veterinary scientist.
Wow.
And doing equine veterinary surgery and things, which was going to be really cool, working with horses in my life. And then I realised I'm really terrible at maths, which for the Americans or North Americans, math is when you do one sum. Maths is when you do more than one sum. That's an arbitrary rule that I made up recently. But I'm sticking to it.
I was definitely I was like, oh my god, he's gonna tell me what the difference is between math and maths.
No,
and then
no,
and
you
then
just
it didn't happen.
I mean, we're like mathematics.
Yeah,
So we just do maths. So you're like mathematic. So what is it? One sum?
No, it is still mathematics.
Yeah.
We just leave out the S because like
we just stay with it being a plural thing.
Yeah. And to be fair, it is plural because there's more than one theory of mathematics, isn't there? There's like...
I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
you've just cracked the
It
American lexicon. Strike 3. So, yeah, I was really into that, and actually, and then I decided, I don't think I want to do that, I'm going to go to drama school, and then I was like, how about genetics? Love a bit of genetics, very interesting. For any of the geneticists out there.
I like Mendel's graph. That's the only thing I remember from genetics. It's Mendel's chart. Is it Mendel? Who does the it's the chart with the square.
1 in 4
square.
chance.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, that is literally my only genetics joke. Like on the rare occasion that I meet a geneticist, I'm like, look at that. There's a 1 in 4 chance I was going to meet you. And they're like,
That's so funny.
Probability.
So anatomy was your thing.
And that's what I really enjoyed. And for some reason it just makes sense to me. I kind of just remember all the bits. And lovely Gemma Bowden, when she was studying for her soft tissue specialism thing, which she also does on the side, she was learning all the anatomy and physiology of the body, muscularly, mainly. Although she does nerves and stuff as well. It's very interesting. She was talking about the fact that the way that muscles are named is from origin point to insertion point.
Right.
And the insertion point moves towards the origin point on contraction. So most of those muscles are named origin to insertion. So cricothyroid or thyroarytenoid or whatever. So it's the most stable structure where it originates to the least stable structure in the relationship. So you always know, so it's there to there. It literally tells you in the name. Brilliant.
It's very, like, I find that most anatomy is very practical.
Yeah.
Like, and even the way that the larynx operates is quite, when you think about it, you go, oh yeah, I do that. I think there's a part of my brain that always wants to make things more complicated than it ever really needs to be.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah.
So anatomy is the stuff that you got.
Right.
It's the stuff that's in there and out there. That's all around. There's just stuff in your body, right? It's all the bits.
What's the physiology?
So the physiology is the movements. So it's a bit of how those bits of anatomy move. So muscles contract and relax. Cartilages often stay still, or they are manipulated by muscles. bones also manipulated by muscles. You've got ligaments and things which tend to sort of hold things relatively well in place.
Love a ligament.
But it's a little bit like, so like a joint could be like the hinge, for example. And there are different types of joints, but you've got like a hinge on a door, for example. But the bolt that goes through it might be considered to be, you know, a ligament because it holds the whole thing together. And then you moving the door is the physiology of making it move open and closed.
I want you to teach me anatomy.
I love teaching anatomy. It's one of my favourites.
I'm just going to sit here with you every Sunday
Yeah,
and
just
be
like,
Leon, tell me a story.
Tell me a
of the
story about the
ligaments."
muscle. And so, so the anatomy is what you've got and the physiology is how you move it.
Right. So why is that important?
It's a good question.
Or is it important?
Well, I think it really is important. I think it's really vital. But I mean, it sort of comes down to the question of how much do you need to know about that if you are
A voice
whatever.
user.
So if you're a voice user, I mean, how much did we ever learn as children about how our voices work in order to be able to speak? Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
None.
You kind of heard the term voice box, maybe?
I heard
At some
voice
point?
chords. That was my first thing.
Vocal cords, voice cords, yeah.
Yeah, in opera camp.
In opera camp.
Because I went to opera
Nerd.
camp.
So yeah, there's that. There's the need to know almost nothing if you're going to just use your voice. That's fine. If you are going to use your voice in a way that earns you money,
A professional context.
a professional voice user context, I would have thought, I would always suggest that you know a little. If you are going to do some sort of elite performance, like being in the West End, or being an opera singer, or being a professional actor and speaking 8 shows a week and doing that sort of stuff, you probably should know quite a bit. And then I think the next stage after that is being a coach. That you should know as much as you possibly can. At least that's how I feel about my knowledge on it. How can I know as much as I possibly can? And that changes on a monthly basis because people discover things and then you're like, oh no, I thought it was this and it's not, it's something kind of similar but not quite the same, and you just have to sort of reframe things on a regular basis. Sometimes it's not because the anatomy is different, it's because the physiology is different. And we understand that actually the joint that we thought was a joint is not a joint, it's more of a sort of, I don't know, like a relationship. And
It's
you're
like
kind
a
of
cousin
like,
to it.
it's a cousin. We thought it was siblings and not the cousins. Or like, you know what I mean? It's kind of, things change and shift, and it doesn't mean that what was before was wrong, it just means that we've now added another layer of understanding to it.
Right.
So, as a coach, you sort of should know quite a lot. And then beyond that, you then sort of, I think, move into the terms of therapists and surgeons and doctors or doctors and surgeons and that sort of stuff, where you're going to need to know increasingly large amounts about the really specifics of whatever it is you specialise in.
Yeah.
But what we know about anatomy, especially with the voice, is that we know that anatomy has an effect on the sound that you create. And the physiological movement of some of the bits of anatomy means that you can create different sounds.
Right. Well, yeah, because that's how sounds work, isn't it?
Pretty much. I mean, you moving your tongue in your mouth and bringing it into contact with parts of your, you know, what are they called? Immovable articulators, but immovable articulators, stationary articulators.
Yes, the static ones.
Static articulators. That they don't move, but you bring your tongue to them and then you articulate something. And the distance between the roof of your mouth and the highest point of your tongue creates a different vowel sound.
Right.
So we know that, even just on a vowel sound or a sort of articulatory level, level, that there is definitely movement happening.
Right.
Whether or not you're conscious of that is a sort of secondary or even tertiary thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm always, I think I tend to start with vowels and consonants because it's something that everyone uses. And every language has vowels and has consonants that I am aware of.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah. I have yet to meet a student who's come from a language that doesn't have vowels or consonants. But I think that's an easier way to talk about it because then it's something that they can experiment with. And then kind of moving from that into something that might be like resonance and changing the path that the vibrations go through to get to the other side.
Ooh,
I know.
get to the other side.
So, because I always thought it's like, it's a
transition.
journey, isn't it? It's a journey from here out there.
Out into the world.
Out into the world, yeah. And what it meets upon that journey will determine the output. It's in a way it's quite mathematical in the sense that there's an input and there's an output, right? So there's something that happens, and then along that way, if something else happens, the output will be different, right?
Yeah.
So if you shape the vibrations in a certain way,
Yeah.
then it will come out as a different output. And I think that's important for them to at least understand.
Yeah. And like in a really linear sense,
Yeah.
if we remain linear for a second, and voice is not linear, but we'll deal
Just
with
for
that
the
for a
sake.
second. But if we think about it in a linear sense, that if we look at the phoneticians or the acousticians model of voice production, which is power, source, filter.
Right.
So the power is the thing that that fuels the system, which in voice is breath, and then the source is the connection that true vocal folds make with each other, and then the filter is anything north of or superior to the true vocal folds, the top edge of the true vocal folds. And any way that you change the filter between the true vocal folds, as I said, true vocal folds, and the end of the track, so whether that's the end of your nostril, or whether that's the tips of your lips, the edges of your lips, whatever you do on that journey, as you said, on the path out, that's going to filter the sound in a different way. So you're changing the harmonic structure, you're changing which bits are more audible or less audible. It doesn't mean the sound's not created.
Right.
It just means that you've filtered it in a different way.
Right.
Much like if you make a coffee
Yeah.
and you put a filter paper in, or it has a metal filter or whatever it is, or gauze of some description, that it allows the water to come through once it's been infused with delicious coffee.
I really want
coffee too. But it holds back the grounds. It holds back the ground up coffee.
Right.
So it stops you from, not always quite as efficiently as you might like, but it filters it. So it lets some things through and it stops other things from coming through.
Right.
In the same way that gels over a light that we use in theatre will let some of the light spectrum through, and therefore that's the colour that you see, because it's predominantly just that, and it only allows that wavelength to come through, versus others. So if it's red, it's on one end of the scale, and if it's violet, it's on the other. So we have this like spectrum with everything, and it kind of you can mess around with it as and when you want,
Yeah.
especially with voice.
Yeah, and especially for first years, that's kind of all like in terms of like a way to look at the voice, which I feel like we'll do another podcast on the methodology, method, and technique, and all that, and
we'll
what
look at
that is.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
But just as a way to look at something, I put it in those terms. Because I think at 18, 19, that's kind of all my ink. And studying on like a drama course, that is what your brain can handle.
And often we had this discussion earlier that maybe that's a really scary thing, doing lots of anatomy, and how do you decipher what to do with it, and oh my god, panic.
Right. Yeah.
And then we were talking about that, and I said, well, how about being a doctor? You spend the first year.
Yeah.
Or being a therapist, or being someone who works clinically or medically, you spend pretty much the first year of your training dissecting a cadaver, looking through Gray's Anatomy and reciting, head bones connected to the neck bone, etc. Probably more sophisticated than that, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I just had an image of doctors just sitting in a room and head bones connected to it was like, I don't know why.
That's week 1, medical degree. I'm pretty sure of it. I'm certain it's not, but yeah.
It's really, because I always thought that I wanted to be a doctor too at one point, but then I realized I just really liked watching Grey's Anatomy, which is not the same thing.
Oh, that's so I had that with ER a bit.
Right?
I just realised I'd like to live with George Clooney, but sure.
That's exactly what it was, and I was like, no, I just like what it looks like on TV, because everything looks better on television. But yeah, and I think what you said before, as we were talking, we talk a lot.
We do talk a lot.
About the configuring the voice to achieve certain. What did I write? To achieve certain styles in genres in different contexts, so that knowing the anatomy as a voice coach can help you to. I don't want to use the word manipulate because there's something negative about the word manipulate, but configure. To configure the voice in such a way to get the desired outcome or an outcome that is more desirable to the context in which you're working in.
Yeah, and to the aesthetic of the people that want it.
Yes.
So whether that's the director or the producer or the actor or you. And obviously working in, I mean, I say obviously, not obviously, but it is clear to us that working in a rehearsal room,
right.
As a voice coach, we don't have the final say.
Right, yeah.
And nor should we, that's not our responsibility. Our job is to facilitate.
Right.
So turning to the director and saying, what would you like?
Yeah.
And in conjunction with the discussion with the actor and the director, what actor, what would you like to do? Director, is that what you want? Great, let's go away and work. And then our job is to decipher a means of getting that person from the place they are currently to the place they need to be for the purposes of the
And I think there's
play.
something quite there's something really tricky. I think we'll talk about this when we get to acting in theatre in a voice context, but I think there's something really tricky about when somebody says that they want a certain sound, because oftentimes whether it's a director, producer, whoever it is that is dictating it, does not have the same terminology that a voice coach would have. And so there is a bit of and this comes back almost to like a communication and linguistics thing, and there is a bit of translation that is involved.
Absolutely.
And if you have, I think, a very clear understanding of sound in terms of what is happening both acoustically and what is happening anatomically to produce that sound, then it could be easier in your brain to go click, click, oh, it's this, 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 or this.
Absolutely.
And then translate that to in actor speech with the actor.
Yeah.
And in their conversation. So you're almost like a translator in some sense.
Always translating.
We're translating.
Constantly translating.
Conslantically translating.
Constantly making up language. It's a great new
Well,
word.
we do have ludic forms of language, so
Oh.
I know.
What's a ludic form of
That is my
language?
favorite thing. So way back in the day, I took a linguistic anthropology course.
Ooh.
I know, with one of the, I love this man, and I still remember his name, but I don't want to say it in public in case he's like, well, I never said that. I did really well in the class because I love this person so much.
Sure.
And we were talking about different
That was year 9 English for me, but there was a different reason for that.
Okay. But there was this thing where we were talking about what's the difference between forms of communication that we find in animals and forms of communication that we find in humans, and why is that a language, and why are some forms of animal communication just codes and not language? And one of the things was that humans have ludic forms of language in which we can make up words and make up grammar constructions, right? That still communicate what we need to communicate with. But not done so in a standard or normal way. So children do this a lot. You've seen like 8-year-olds who have their own secret language with each other. This is my favorite thing. And just like create silly words with one another, and it's all cute and beautiful. But that tends to be quite unique to humans.
To human beings.
Yeah. They're conslanting. What is it? It's gone now.
Don't know. King's Landing. So there's all of that to sort of consider with translating what's going on in a rehearsal room and trying to then not just translate it in a way that the actor makes sense of it. So because you're not a mediator,
right?
Or we're not mediators. It's more about actually deciphering what it is that the director wants, deciphering what the actor wants, working out where the actor is now and how to get them to that place, so that then you can be a 7 to 2 masters, which is tricky even at the best of times.
Oh yeah.
So it's a convoluted and complicated sort of relationship, but
Yeah.
the clearer you are, or the clearer you can be about what somebody is doing,
Right.
that is connected to, for me, I work quite physiologically, often, especially when it comes to, I need them to make this sound, or be louder, or quieter, or more this, or more that, and it's kind of, they're doing it, I can see them acting it, but they're not, it doesn't sound like that. I'm like, okay. So I know that certain sounds equal certain physiological movements.
Right.
So therefore, I'll give somebody a really specific exercise to make that physiological movement happen,
Right.
to engage some muscles and make them feel the effort that's working in that particular place. And then we'll sew it back into the technique of doing that scene, and can you feel that moment, place it in that thought, add an extra kind of dimension to
Right.
the way you take that breath, or the way that you move that thing, or whatever it might be. Can you technically and artistically and with nuance work that into the thing that you're doing?
Yeah.
And then hopefully we sort of have an outcome that is what we wanted. And if it's not, it's quite quick to change, because you only did one tiny thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that comes down to process, which I think we'll talk about at some other point. And there being a process, especially in coaching, because the process of coaching and the process of teaching are very, very different.
Totally different.
Because sometimes in teaching you might not see an outcome for quite a bit of time, but in coaching it almost has to be immediate, because they've got things to do either that day, that next hour, in the next 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it has to be done. But there's something in that some people do work physiologically, and then some people work not physiologically, but working. So if there's a thought breath phonation process, working from the thought and breath into the phonation, as opposed to working from the phonation, and then linking the phonation back to the thought and the breath. That makes sense.
Yeah. It's the same sort of thing as saying that voice is linear, in the same way that acting is not linear either.
Right.
That there is a sort of dynamic equilibrium, there is a kind of movement between both sides of that relationship. Whether or not, in rehearsals over the last few months, and looked at a fellow actor and just went, "Am I giving you enough?" And they were like, yeah, it's good. Am I giving you enough? I'm like, yeah, I think it's good. Do you like it? Director, do we like this scene? Yeah, we do. Okay. I think we're doing fine then. Great. It's kind of, am I doing enough for you on an energetic level? And so if I'm not, and it's lacking, then you've got nothing to respond to. And then what you have to do is play your objective harder, or play your action more strongly, or change your action so it is a stronger elicitation of something happening in the other person, if you subscribe to the notion of actioning. Or whatever, or just playing the intention, and so that then you elicit something from the other actor that is more profound or more excitable or whatever it might be, but there is a larger response, so that then they have something to work from and work against and work with. So with that, it's kind of, in voice terms, it's kind of not dissimilar, because you actually, there is a backflow effect as well as an upflow effect, and there's all sorts of other things that are going on, and working out and negotiating those things with a really clear idea of what the anatomy is and how the physiology affects the sound, that then whether or not you start with anatomy or whether you start with the sound, it kind of doesn't matter as long as you join the dots.
And it's different for each person, because I know there are some actors who are like, tell me what is happening first, or tell me what's happening anatomically wise, because they have that knowledge and they would like to know. And some people are really great with that, and it's like, well, I feel like you're doing this, and in order to make the sound that we want last or to make it have this effect, or to add this thing. We just need this to happen. And they'll go boom, boom, boom. Okay, and how do we make that happen? You give them the exercise, boom, and they're great. Some people, you have to work in the opposite direction because they're just like, I don't really know. Anatomy freaks me out. Physiological stuff freaks me out. Just give me something to do and make it happen, kind of thing. And I will do the thing and I will practice it and then it will happen. So like because people are different and actors are people, and so you're always coaching. Yeah, I know. That is like, I think that's a whole nother.
Actors are people too.
Actors are people too. Yeah. Great. So, yeah. What did you learn?
What did I learn? I learned that I can make up words.
Yes.
What was the ludic?
Ludic forms of language.
Ludic forms of language. That is genuinely what I've learned today. Lovely. I will add that to my list of things that Aundrea has said to me that I have to read up on, which grows every time we talk, which is several times a week, so this is getting a really long list. Yeah, loved it. That's what I've learned and realised today. Aundrea, what have you realised and learned today?
Actors are people. But you know what? I mean, I knew actors were people, but I think that last thing that I mean...
When I say I learned, the thing that I said was great.
I realised that it came out that way. I didn't mean it to come out that way. But just that... because I once had a very amazing teacher who once told me that as many people as there are on the planet, that's as many ways as there are teaching. Because everyone learns in a different way, and some people only like to learn in one way, and some people only like to teach in one way, and it's about balancing that. And I think in terms of anatomy and physiology, that's the exact same way. Even though there's some things that I'm not as comfortable with, that might be my students' strong point, or whoever I'm coaching, that might be their strong point. So I have to up my game in order to come and meet them at that point. So, yeah, just like as there are a variety of people, and there's a variety of people in terms of the knowledge that they bring to whatever it is that we're doing. So there is a variety of ways of teaching and a variety of ways of interacting with interacting, I think is a big thing. Interacting with anatomy and physiology in a way to get what you need from whoever you're working with.
If you want to contact us about anything we said in the podcast, you can reach us on Twitter at CanYouHearPod.
Or on Instagram at CanYouHearMePodcast.
Or you can search for us on Facebook and on YouTube.
Or email us at canyouhearmeattheback@gmail.com.
You can find me, Leon, on Twitter at Leon Trayman.
Or me, Aundrea, at Aundrea Fudge on Twitter.
Please support the podcast by subscribing as a patron on our Patreon site.
The link is in the show notes.
To keep the podcast advertisement free, as well as get access to cool extra stuff, discounts, bonus episodes, as well as supporting ongoing voice research funding as well. Okay, love you, bye!